Meow, 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 meow. Or for any humans listening in the audience who do not speak cat, please welcome. Please welcome us, and we welcome you to our very normal and dignified reading of Old Possum's book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. This will be a very serious production from Crokespear Theatre Company, and we would like you to join us in sensibly celebrating the day and the works of T.S. Eliot. So, without further ado, we shall commence the reading.
The, the naming of the cats. The naming of the cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm mad as a hatter, but I tell you, a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonso, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter. But all of them sensible everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified. Else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind I can give you a quorum, such as Mancastrap, Quaxo, or Coricopat, such as Bombalurina, or else Jelly Lorum. Names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over. And that is the name you never will guess. The name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason, I tell you, is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought of the thought of the thought of his name. His ineffable, effable, if an ineffable, deep and inscrutable singular name.
The Old Gumby Cat. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Annie Dots. Her coat is of the tabby kind, with tiger stripes and leopard spots. All day she sits upon the stair, or on the steps, or on the mat. She sits and sits and sits and sits. And that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. And when all the family's in bed and asleep, she tucks up her skirts to the basement to creep. She is deeply concerned with the ways of the mice. Their behavior's not good, and their manners not nice. So when she has got them lined up on the matting, she teaches them music, crocheting, and tatting. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Annie Dots. Her equal would be hard to find. She likes the warm and sunny spots. All day she sits beside the hearth, or on the bed, or on my hat. She sits and sits and sits and sits. And that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby cat's work is but hardly begun, as she finds that the mice will not ever keep quiet. She is sure it is due to irregular diet. And believing that nothing is done without trying, she sets right to work with her baking and frying. She makes them a mouse cake of bread and dried peas, and a beautiful fry of lean bacon and cheese. I have a Gumby cat in mind. Her name is Jenny Anydots. The curtain cord she likes to wind and tie it into sailor knots. She sits upon the window sill, or anything that's smooth and flat. She sits and sits and sits and sits. And that's what makes a Gumby cat. But when the day's hustle and bustle is done, then the Gumby cat's work is but hardly begun. She thinks that the cockroaches just need employment to prevent them from idle and wanton destroyment. So she's formed from that lot of disorderly louts a troop of well-disciplined, helpful Boy Scouts, with a purpose in life and a good deed to do, and she's even created a beetle's tattoo. So for old Gumby cats, let us now give 3 cheers, on whom well-ordered households depend, it appears.
And now a slight intermission piece. Ode to Spot, a poem composed by Data for his eponymous pet cat, Spot. Felis catus is your taxonomic nomenclature, an endothermic quadruped carnivorous by nature. Your visual, olfactory, and auditory senses contribute to your hunting skills and natural defenses. I find myself intrigued by your subvocal oscillations, a singular development of cat communications that obviates your basic hedonistic predilection for a rhythmic stroking of your fur to demonstrate affection. A tail is quite essential for your acrobatic talents. You would not be so agile if you lacked its counterbalance, and when not being utilized to aid in locomotion, it often serves to illustrate the state of your emotion. Oh, Spot, the complex levels of behavior you display connote a fairly well-developed cognitive array. And though you are not sentient, Spot, and do not comprehend, I nonetheless consider you a true and valued friend.
The Rum-Tum-Tugger. The Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious cat. If you offer him pheasant, he would rather have grouse. If you put him in a house, he would much prefer a flat. If you put him in a flat, he'd rather have a house. If you set him on a mouse, then he only wants a rat. If you set him on a rat, then he'd rather chase a mouse. Yes, the Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious cat. And there isn't any call for me to shout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum-Tugger is a terrible bore. When you let him in, then he wants to be out. He's always on the wrong side of every door, and as soon as he's at home, then he'd like to get about. He likes to lie in the bureau drawer, but he makes such a fuss if he can't get out. Yes, the Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious cat, and it isn't any use for you to doubt it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum-Tugger is a curious beast. His disobliging ways are a matter of habit. If you offer him fish, then he always wants a feast. When there isn't any fish, then he won't eat rabbit. If you offer him cream, then he sniffs and sneers, for he only likes what he finds for himself. So you'll catch him in it right up to the ears. If you put it away on the larder shelf, the rum-tum-tugger is artful and knowing. The rum-tum-tugger doesn't care for a cuddle, but he'll leap on your lap in the middle of your sewing, for there's nothing he enjoys like a horrible muddle. Yes, the rum-tum-tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any need for me to spout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it.
The Song of the Jellicles. Jellicle cats come out tonight. Jellicle cats come one, come all. The Jellicle moon is shining bright. Jellicles come to the Jellicle ball. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats are rather small. Jellicle cats are merry and bright, and pleasant to hear when they caterwaul. Jellicle cats have cheerful faces. Jellicle cats have bright black eyes. They like to practice their airs and graces, and wait for the Jellicle moon to rise. Jellicle cats develop slowly. Jellicle cats are not too big. Jellicle cats are roly-poly. They know how to dance a gavotte and a jig. Until the Jellicle moon appears, they make their toilet and take their repose. Jellicles wash behind their ears. Jellicles dry between their toes. Jellicle cats are white and black. Jellicle cats are of moderate size. Jellicles jump like a jumping jack. Jellicle cats have moonlit eyes. They're quiet enough in the morning hours. They're quiet enough in the afternoon, reserving their terpsichorean powers to dance by the light of the Jellicle moon. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats, as I said, are small. If it happens to be a stormy night, they will practice a caper or two in the hall. If it happens the sun is shining bright, you will say they had nothing to do at all. They are resting and saving themselves to be right for the Jellicle moon and the Jellicle ball.
What? Another interruption? Oh no. I've obtained an original work inspired not by T.S. Eliot, but by cats. It goes like this. There is a special cat that takes a special form. This white whirlwind is a snowdrift of fur, so she's kept quite reasonably warm. When the air seizes up and a chill rolls in, this feline feels nothing and gazes unfazed, for she's snugly enveloped from tail to chin. What a glorious state to be in! It's a strange sort of coat, but it's never too much, at least when the seasons are cold. Then by spring's coming, she's warm to the touch, by summer just too hot to hold. But it looks like she's happy to melt in the sun, like an ice cream without a cone. She takes this quite kindly as work to be done, and next winter will heat the whole home.
Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser. Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser were a very notorious couple of cats.
Привет, это мы, юркие клоуны, виртуозы комичных прыжков.
They had an extensive reputation. They made their home in Victoria Grove.
Штаб-квартира у нас в дорогом районе, а делаем дело мы в разных местах.
They were very well known in Cornwall Gardens, in Launceston Place, and in Kensington Square.
Если створка стучит на ветру окно, а ведь вы закрыли его давно.
If the area window was found ajar,
Если в потолке зияет дыра,
if a tile or two came loose on the roof,
а был невредим он еще с утра.
if the drawers were pulled out from the bedroom chests,
И пропали шаль и любимый шарф.
or after supper one of the girls,
Вроде стекляшка, а жаль до слез.
then the family would say, "It's that horrible cat."
Манго Джелли?
Or Rumple Teaser,
Она или он? Кто их разберет?
Mango Jerry and Rumple Teaser had a very unusual gift of the gab.
Мы умеем ходить сквозь закрытую дверь?
And remarkably smart at a smash and grab.
У нас есть штаб, 8 ловких лап. Живем шикарно, нигде не служим.
They were plausible fellows and liked to engage a friendly policeman in conversation.
Если в праздничный день, позабыв диету, вы всей семьей собрались к обеду,
On Argentine joint, potatoes and greens, and the cook would appear from the behind the scenes.
и все уже поняли, что это значит, отчего она горько, обиженно плачет.
For the joint has gone from the oven, like that.
И вздыхает семья. Это тот самый кот.
It was Mungo Jerry.
Или рампл-тизер.
And most of the time, they left it at that.
Манго Джерри и рампл-тизер. Если мы собрались, то ждите сюрприза.
And some of the time you would say it was luck, and some of the time you would say it was weather.
Вот кто-то мелькнул, обернись и взгляни, но он уже прыг и скрылся в тени.
Was it Mungo Jerry?
Или рампл-тизер.
Or could you have sworn that it mightn't be both?
И если в кухне грохот и виск, то ясно, что это разбился сервиз.
Or down from the library came a loud ping from a vase which was commonly said to be Ming.
И гадает семья, кто мог это быть?
It was Mungo Jerry.
И рампл-тизер.
And there's nothing at all to be done about that.
Остается одно — повздыхать и забыть.
Old Deuteronomy. Old Deuteronomy's lived a long time. He's a cat who has lived many lives in succession. He was famous in proverb and famous in rhyme, a long while before Queen Victoria's accession. Old Deuteronomy's buried 9 wives and more. I'm tempted to say 99. And his numerous progeny prospers and thrives, and the village is proud of him in his decline. At the sight of that placid and bland physiognomy, when he sits in the sun on the vicarage wall, the oldest inhabitant croaks, "Well, of all things, can it be? Really? No. Yes. Oh, hi, oh my eye. My mind may be wandering, but I confess I believe it is old Deuteronomy. Old Deuteronomy sits in the street. He sits in the high street on market day. The bullocks may bellow, the sheep they may bleat, but the dogs and the herdsmen will turn them away. The cars and the lorries run over the curb, and the villagers put up a notice, road close, so that nothing untowards may chance to disturb Deuteronomy's rest when he feels so disposed, or when he's engaged in domestic economy, and the oldest inhabitant croaks, well, of all things, can it be? Really? No, yes. Oh, hi, oh, my eye. My sight's unreliable, but I can guess that the cause of the trouble is old Deuteronomy. Old Deuteronomy lies on the floor of the fox and French horn for his afternoon sleep. And when the men say, "There's just time for one more," and the landlady from her back parlour will peep and say, "Now then, out you go by the back door, for old Deuteronomy mustn't be woken. I'll have the police if there's any uproar." And out they all shuffle, without a word spoken. The digestive repose of that feline's gastronomy must never be broken, whatever befall. And the oldest inhabitant croaks, well, of all things, can it be? Really? Yes. No. Oh, hi. Oh, my eye. My legs may be tottery. I must go slow and be careful of old Deuteronomy.
Mr. Mistopheles. You ought to know Mr. Mistopheles, the original conjuring cat. There can be no doubt about that. Please listen to me and don't scoff. All his inventions are off his own bat. There's no such cat in the metropolis. He holds all the patent monopolies for performing surprising illusions and creating eccentric confusions. At prestidigitation, at legerdemain, he'll defy examination and deceive you again. The greatest magicians have something to learn from Mr. Mistopheles' conjuring turn. Presto, away we go, and we all say, "Oh, well, I never. Was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles?" He is quite small, he is black, from his ears to the tip of his tail. He can creep through the tiniest crack, he can walk on the narrowest rail. He can pick any card from a pack, he is equally cunning with dice. He is always deceiving you into believing that he's only hunting for mice. He can play any trick with a cork, or a spoon, or a bit of fish paste. If you look for a knife or a fork, and you think that it is merely misplaced, you have seen it one moment, and then it is gone. But you'll find it next week lying out on the lawn, and we all say, "Oh, well, I never. Was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles?" His manner is vague and aloof. You would think there was nobody shyer, but his voice has been heard on the roof when he was curled up by the fire, and he's sometimes been heard by the fire when he was about on the roof. At least, we all heard that somebody purred, which is incontestable proof of his singular magical powers, and I have known the family to call him in from the garden hours while he was asleep in the hall. And not long ago, this phenomenal cat produced 7 kittens right out of a hat, and we all said, "Oh, well, I never. Did you ever know a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles.
Macavity, the mystery cat. Macavity's a mystery cat. He's called the Hidden Paw, for he's the master criminal who can defy the law. He's the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair, for when they reach the scene of crime, Macavity's not there. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. He's broken every human law. He breaks the law of gravity. His powers of levitations would make a fakir stare. And when you see the scene of crime, Cavity's not there. You may seek him in the basement, you may look up in the air, but I tell you once and again, Macavity's not there. Macavity's a ginger cat. He's very tall and thin. You would know him if you saw him, for his eyes are sunken in. His brow is deeply lined with thought. His head is highly domed. His coat is dusty from neglect, and his whiskers are uncombed. He sways his head from side to side with movements like a snake, and when you think he's half asleep, he's always wide awake. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity, for he's a fiend in feline shape, a monster of depravity. You may meet him on a by-street, you may see him in the square, but when the crime's discovered, Macavity is not there. He's outwardly respectable, they say. He cheats at cards. His footprints are not found on any file in Scotland Yard. When the larder's looted, or the jewel case is rifled, or the milk is missing, or another peak's been stifled, or the greenhouse glass is broken, and the trellis is past repair, there's the wonder of the thing. Cavity's not there. When the Foreign Office find a treaty's gone astray, or the Admiralty lose some plans and drawings, by the way, there may be a scrap of paper in the hall or on the stair, but it's useless to investigate. Cavity's not there. And when the loss has been disclosed, the Secret Service say it must have been Macavity, but he's a mile away. You'll be sure to find him resting, or a licking of his thumbs, or engaged in doing complicated long division sums. Macavity, there's no one like Macavity. There was never a cat of such deceitfulness and suavity. He always has an alibi and one or two to spare. At whatever time the deed took place, Macavity wasn't there. And they say all the cats whose wicked deeds are widely known. I might mention Mungo Jerry. I might mention Griddlebone. Are nothing more than agents for the cat, who all the time just controls their operations. The Napoleon of crime.
Gus, the theatre cat. Gus is the cat at the theatre door. His name, as I ought to have told you before, is really Asparagus. That's such a fuss to pronounce that we usually call him just Gus. His coat's very shabby, he's thin as a rake, and he suffers from palsy that makes his paws shake. Yet, he was, in his youth, quite the smartest of cats, but no longer a terror to mice and to rats. For he isn't the cat that he was in his prime, though his name was quite famous, he says, in its time. And whenever he joins his friends at their club, which takes place at the back of the neighbouring pub, he loves to regale them, if someone else pays, with anecdotes drawn from his palmiest days. For he once was a star of the highest degree. He's acted with Irving, he's acted with Tree, And he likes to relate his success on the halls, where the gallery once gave him 7 cat calls. But his grandest creation, as he loves to tell, was Fire Fraw Fiddle, the fiend of the fell. I have played, so he says, every possible part, and I used to know 70 speeches by heart. I'd extemporise backchat, I knew how to gag, and I knew how to let the cat out of the bag. I knew how to act with my back and my tail. With an hour of rehearsal, I never could fail. I'd a voice that would soften the hardest of hearts, whether I took the lead or in character parts. I have sat by the bedside of poor little Nell when the curfew was rung, then I swung on the bell. In the pantomime season, I never fell flat, and I once understudied Dick Whittington's cat. But my grandest creation, as history will tell, was Fire Fraw Fiddle, the fiend of the fell. Then, if someone will give him a toothful of gin, he will tell how he once played a part in East Lynne. At a Shakespeare performance, he once walked on Pat when some actor suggested the need for a cat. He once played a tiger, could do it again, which an Indian colonel pursued down a drain. And he thinks that he can still, better than most, produce blood-curdling noises to bring on the ghost. And he once crossed the stage on a telegraph wire to rescue a child when a house was on fire. And he says, now these kittens, they do not get trains, as we did in the days when Victoria reigned. They never get drilled in a regular troop, and they think that they're smart just to jump through a hoop. And he'll say, as he scratches himself with his claws, well, the theatre's certainly not what it was. These modern productions are all very well, but there's nothing to equal, from what I hear tell, that moment of mystery when I made history as Fire Fraw Fiddle, the fiend of the fell.
Bustopher Jones, the cat about town. Bustopher Jones is not skin and bones. In fact, he's remarkably fat. He doesn't haunt pubs. He has 8 or 9 clubs, for he's the St. James Street cat. He's the cat we all greet as he walks down the street, in his coat of fastidious black. No commonplace mousers have such well-cut trousers, or such an impeccable back. In the Hall of St. James, the smartest of names is the name of this brummel of cats. And we're all of us proud to be nodded or bowed to by Bustopher Jones in white spats. His visits are occasional, the senior educational, and it is against the rules for any one cat to belong both to that and the joint superior schools. For a similar reason, when the game's in season, he is found not at foxes, but blimps. He's frequently seen at the gay stage and screen, which is famous for winkles and shrimps. In the season of venison, he gives his pension to the pot hunter's succulent bones. And just before noon, not a moment too soon to drop in for a drink at the drones. When he's in a hurry, there's probably curry at the Siamese or at the Glutton. If he looks full of gloom, then he's lunched at the Tomb, on cabbage, rice pudding, and mutton. So much in this way passes Bustopher's day. At one club or another he's found. It can be no surprise that under our eyes he has grown unmistakably round. He's a 25-pounder, or I am a bounder, and he's putting on weight every day. But he's so well preserved because he's observed all his life a routine, so he'll say. Or to put it in rhyme, I shall last out my time, is the word of the stoutest of cats. It must and shall be the spring in Pall Mall, while Bustopher Jones wears white spats.
Skimbleshanks, the railway cat. There's a whisper down the line at 11:39 when the night mail's ready to depart, saying, Skimble? Where is Skimble? Has he gone to hunt the thimble? We must find him or the train can't start. All the guards and all the porters and the station master's daughters, they're searching high and low, saying, Skimble, where is Skimble? For unless he's very nimble, then the night mail just can't go. At 11:42, then the signal's nearly due, and the passengers are frantic to a man. Then Skimble will appear, and he'll saunter to the rear. He's been busy in the luggage van. He gives one flash of his glass green eyes, and the signal goes, all clear, and we're off at last for the northern part of the northern hemisphere. You may say that by and large it is Skimble who's in charge of the sleeping car express. From the driver to the guards to the bagman playing cards, he will supervise them all. More or less. Down the corridor he paces and examines all the paces of the travellers, the first and in the third. He establishes control by a regular patrol, and he'd know at once if anything occurred. He will watch you without winking, and he sees what you are thinking, and it's certain that he doesn't approve of hilarity and riot. So the folk are very quiet when Skimble is about and on the move. You can play no pranks with Skimbleshanks. He's a cat that cannot be ignored. So nothing goes wrong on the Northern Mail when Skimbleshanks is aboard. Oh, it's very pleasant when you've found your little den with your name written up on the door. And the berth is very neat with a newly folded sheet, and there's not a speck of dust on the floor. There is every sort of light. You can make it dark or bright. There's a handle you turn to make a breeze. There's a funny little basin you're supposed to wash your face in, and a crank to shut the window if you sneeze. Then the guard looks in politely and will ask you very brightly, do you like your morning tea weak or strong? But Skimble's just behind him and was ready to remind him, for Skimble won't let anything go wrong. And when you creep into your cosy berth and pull up the counterpane, You ought to reflect that it's very nice to know that you won't be bothered by mice. You can leave all that to the railway cat, the cat of the railway train. In the watches of the night, he is always fresh and bright. Every now and then he has a cup of tea, with perhaps a drop of scotch, while he's keeping on the watch, only stopping here and there to catch a flea. You were fast asleep at Crewe, so you never knew that he was walking up and down the station. You were sleeping all the while he was busy at Carlisle, where he greets the station master with elation. But you saw him in Dumfries, where he speaks to the police if there's anything they ought to know about. When you get to Gallowgate, there you do not have to wait, for Skimbleshanks will help to get you out. He gives you a wave of his long brown tail, which says, "I'll see you again." You'll meet without fail on the midnight mail, the cat of the railway train.
Well, now, if we're all ready, we will read Memory by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Memory. All alone in the memory.
Has a memory?
It's so easy to memory.
Life was beautiful then.
In the street.
I remember the time.
I knew what happiness is.
Let the memory live again.
Free street lamp?
If you touch the street lamp,
Then soon it will be morning.
It's so easy to leave the street lamp.
you'll know what happiness is.
And a new day will begin?
Touch me.
It's so easy to leave me.
All alone with a memory.
Of my days in the sun.
Touch me, I'll understand what happiness is.
Look.
A new day has begun. The addressing of cats. You've heard of several kinds of cat, and my opinion now is that you should need no interpreter to understand their character. You now have learned enough to see that cats are much like you and me, and other people whom we find possessed of various types of mind. For some are sane, and some are mad, and some are good, and some are bad, and some are better, some are worse, but all may be described in verse. You've seen them both at work and games, and learnt about their proper names, their habits, and their habitat. But how would you address a cat? So first, your memory I'll jog and say, a cat is not a dog. Now, dogs pretend they like to fight. They often bark, more seldom bite. But yet a dog is on the whole what you would call a simple soul. Of course, I'm not including peaks and such fantastic canine freaks. The usual dog about the town is much inclined to play the clown, and far from showing too much pride, is frequently undignified. He's very easily taken in. Just chuck him underneath the chin, or slap his back, or shake his paw, and he will gambol or guffaw. He's such an easy-going lout. He'll answer any hail or shout. Again, I must remind you that a dog's a dog, a cat's a cat. With cats, some say, one rule is true. Don't speak till you are spoken to. Myself, I do not hold with that. I say, you should address a cat. But always keep in mind that he resents familiarity. I bow and, taking off my hat, address him in this form. "Oh, cat!" But if he is the cat next door, whom I have often met before, he comes to see me in my flat, I greet him with an, "Oops, a cat!" I think I've heard them call him James, but we've not got so far as names. Before a cat will condescend to treat you as a trusted friend, some little token of esteem is needed, like a dish of cream. And you might now and then supply some caviar or Strasbourg pie, some potted grouse or salmon paste. He's sure to have his personal taste. I know a cat who makes a habit of eating nothing else but rabbit, and when he's finished, licks his paws so as not to waste the onion sauce. A cat's entitled to expect these evidences of respect. And so, in time, you reach your aim, and finally call him by his name. So this is this, and that is that. And there's how you address a cat.
Thank you for listening to our reading this evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. And we shall now introduce our cast. So, I will go from the top of the Discord down. We will start with Dasher. Round of applause for Dasher for the wonderful rendition of Mungo Jerry and Rumpel Teaser. And next we have Nicola, and Nicola was read to us the naming of cat, the song of the Jellicles, and Buster for Jones, the cat about town. Many meows for Nicola. And next, we have Akane. Akane also read and was part of the double act in Mungo Jerry and Rumpel Teaser, and also read for us The Old Gumby Cat and The Addressing of Cats. Many meows for Akane. And next on the list is myself, Sarah D. I read for you today and had the pleasure of doing so. Read Old Deuteronomy, Gus the Theatre Cat, and Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat. It seems narcissistic to request meows for myself, but I shall do it anyway.
Hooray for Sarah, meow!
Yes. And next, we have the wonderful Week Bosun, who read for us his wonderful original piece, which has an image for a name, and also the Rum Tum Tugger and Mr. Mistopheles. So a round of meows for Week Bosun. And next, we have Flags. Flags read for us Macavity the Mystery Cat. Many Macavity meows for Flags. And for the last but not least of our readers this evening, we have Cheesable, who read the wonderful Ode to Spot. Meow. And then the biggest meows are reserved, of course, for our wonderful host, Ray, who not only hosted this event, but provided the beautiful visuals that have been on the screen throughout this stream. So I think several meows to the wonderful Ray. Think I say on behalf of everyone here, thank you for joining us for this evening of pure art and just a showcase of how beautiful the spoken word can be. And now I think the cast would like to share a parting sentiment with you.
Meow. Meow.
Meow.